I think those are all really great key points about stringings, and I know something else that people might consider in buying, especially if they're outside of club, not so much if they're participating in club, is shuttles. So if people were buying shuttles and they want to buy one, like, what's the difference between the feather and the nylon shuttles?
John, you want to tackle this one? I think you're the most familiar with all the shuttle types.
Well, I guess so. Yeah, so I'd say that when you first start playing, you're going to want to go more towards the nylon shuttle because it lasts longer when you play, and it doesn't require like as good technique compared to the feather shuttles. So with the feather shuttles, they're made of 16 feathers, and then so if you're still kind of learning how to play and you might shank the shuttle, and then if you do that to a feather one, you may break the feather, and then once one of the feathers is broken on the shuttle, it won't spin as properly as before because it's missing one feather. So that will affect your game, and it'll affect when you're playing with your opponent. So that's one of the benefits of starting out with a nylon shuttle when you're first kind of learning how to play, because it's much more durable and will last a lot longer.
I think the other thing with feather shuttles, right? Like, I know that you have to start steaming them, and I don't know if you have to steam them every time, but I think it's also a bit more maintenance, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong.
In terms of steaming shuttles, that tends to actually depend on your climate. So if you're in Canada, and say you're in Calgary or Edmonton, where the climate's really, really dry, then the feathers will be really, really brittle, so they won't last quite as long when you hit them. But if you're in an area that's really humid, then there's no real need to steam shuttles.
Oh, okay, I see. Do you know if there's like a rough cutoff in terms of like how you define humid, or if is it more kind of like it's humid or it's not?
Yeah, so it's sort of you need to or you don't need to. There's no real in between.
So that's good to know that it's best to start off with nylons too, just because it is a lot. I think it's also a lot cheaper. So it's a lot cheaper, and it's just it's more durable. So that'd be really great for beginner players. So do you guys know what the couple of different options are? Like, if they want to go somewhere like Sport Check to kind of buy nylons, like what is available and kind of like what the differences are? I know for sure that they have like a blue one versus like a green one. And then there's like 300, 350, and I think 1,000. Is 1,000 the other one?
I just know whenever I play plastic, which now isn't very often, I tend to go for what I consider to be the standard, which is I think 300s or 350s. I think it's 300s.
What color are the 300s? Because that's how I differentiate them.
The colors actually refers to the speed of the shuttle. So depending on what altitude you're at, then you'll need a different speed in the shuttle. So if you're in a higher altitude, then you require the slow shuttles because the air is thinner. So there's less drag on the shuttle because there's less air that's in the way of the shuttle when you hit it. But if you're in a faster climate and there's more air particles, then you'll need a faster shuttle. I'm not sure what color that is. I just know that in Calgary, it's green. You need the green speed.
I think Edmonton might be the same one. I'm not sure. I don't think the altitude differences are that big, right?
Yeah, I think Edmonton's also green.
Yeah, so for anyone who wants to buy shuttles, I guess buy 350, 300, something like that, and then a green one, just to kind of play with. And the last area that I kind of want to touch on too, that some people were kind of curious about as well, is kind of in terms of buying shoes, and I know this one's kind of hard, and it is also very big on personal preference-wise, and then your budget as well. And there are kind of different court shoes that are available, such as, let's say, squash court shoes versus badminton court shoes. Like, are those interchangeable at all? Like, are they still, at the end of the day, just court shoes that you could use to play badminton?
I'd say, yeah. At the end of the day, they are court shoes. But I would say that like badminton, tennis, and squash, they vary when it comes down to like the smaller details. Like I think for tennis, since the court is more of a rough surface, the shoe will have a bit more tread so that it can grip it. But for badminton, since you're usually playing on either mats or hardwood, then you'll find that if you buy a badminton court shoe, that'll be what's best suited for the badminton court, because it'll just be able to supply a bit more grip and a bit more cushion, and it'll help you be a bit more agile when you're playing.
One thing I'd like to add is when you buy shoes in general, is what kind of movement you're going to be doing with the shoe. So volleyball shoes, I've had people ask me, are volleyball shoes okay? Because it's a court shoe, it's indoors. And I think in general, they're all right. I wouldn't say they're good. Because the movement that you're doing in volleyball versus badminton is a lot more different. So in volleyball, you tend to do a lot of the bigger jumps. So you notice the heel of the shoe is actually a lot more raised, so you have more cushion. Whereas in badminton, it's a little bit lower, and it's more suited towards the quick steps and the quick stops that you find in badminton. So this is also true for tennis shoes. In tennis, you tend to do similar movement, but tends to be a bit of running in between because the court is bigger. So the shoes will be a little different.
I can totally see that, and I think that's like why this is a hard area for some people, just because shoes are kind of like an expensive investment as well, especially if it doesn't seem to be 100% necessary for some people. And some people, I think, might even opt out for running shoes or like something that's more indoor shoe-like. For example, let's say if they had a pair of Nikes that they use for indoor shoes and they just want to use that for badminton. Is there any potential consequences of using something like just pure running indoor shoe in comparison to having court shoes?
If you value your ankles, you need to use badminton court shoes.
Yeah, I second that. A lot of running shoes, if they're actually tailored towards running, they tend to have really thick heels, because a lot of people run on their heels, which is, I don't know. The people say there's different ways of running, but that's a totally different topic. But yeah, with that thicker heel, it's a lot more easier to roll your ankle, especially if you're stopping incorrectly. Yeah, what John just said. If you like having ankles working the way they are, definitely don't buy running shoes and go for badminton shoes.
A racket, shoes would probably be pretty up there in terms of what to kind of purchase next on your list for equipment stuff.
Are you including shuttles in this?
Sorry?
Are you saying shuttles is number one?
I think it depends. It depends who you play. I know some people, they will refuse to use plastic shuttles. They're just prestigious and tend to think that plastic shuttles are below them. So I wouldn't go around telling people that hey, you shouldn't be so highbrow about it. But definitely, if you find that some people aren't willing to play with you because you're using different shuttles and you want to play them, then it might be a worthy investment to buy some feather shuttles, because I know a lot of the higher level players only use feather shuttles because they find you can do more with a feather shuttle than a plastic shuttle. So if you want to go really high level, then it might be worth it to buy the feather shuttles.
So what's an example of something you could do with a feather that you can't do with a nylon?
I think if we're talking about the biggest differences is the slice shot and the tight net shots. Because if you look at a plastic shuttle, it's all one uniform piece of plastic. So when you hit it with a slice shot, then you tend to produce less spin because the friction is a lot less. And also when the shuttle spins and it hits the air, it'll have less friction. So the shuttle slowing down because of the extra spin you added with a slice will not be as drastic with a plastic shuttle versus a feather shuttle. And with net shots, because the shuttle is a lot stiffer, you tend to have more control because you're not hitting a piece of jello, if that's a good way of saying it.
So pretty much in summary, you think second to rackets, shuttles is most important potentially.
I think that depends on the person. If everyone you know plays plastic, then it doesn't that's not a factor at all.
Okay.
Then definitely go for the shoes. But if you find that a lot of people are playing feather around you and you want to contribute and do your part and contribute a shuttle when you guys play, then definitely feather shuttles would be a good choice.
Yeah, if you're playing a lot, you don't want to become that guy who's always leeching.
Yeah, I have a roommate. I won't name him.
What if
you guys know who he is? Well, he knows who he is, and I've talked to him about it before.
Oh my goodness.
He would collect shuttles off the court,
and
every time we went to go play, he'd be like, "Oh, I'll bring out a shuttle," and he'd bring out this shuttle. And I mean, it's not. I wouldn't even give it to my students to do feeding as a coach. And it's. I mean, I've seen like it's horrendous. Like that should not be allowed. But if you're my roommate, you know who you are. Calling you out.
Oh my goodness, Daniel. Going back to shoes, what are some of the important things to kind of look for people when they want to buy shoes? Like, what is the one thing you would say, like, if nothing else, this is something that you should probably make sure the shoe kind of has if you're going to buy a pair of court shoes for badminton? If there's anything like that. I don't even know if there's anything like that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think with shoes, well, first it's all about if it fits properly and if it's comfortable. But when I buy my shoes, I always make sure that there's not too much space in between my big toe and I guess all my toes and like the front of the shoe. Because with badminton, there's so much stopping and starting that you don't want the foot to keep on hitting the front of the shoe because then that'll like create blisters. So you want to make sure that the shoe fits properly and fits, I guess snug's the right word, because there's a lot of movement. And if there's too much space, there's a chance that you can get blisters and get injuries from all that extra space.
Yeah, one thing I would add is because stereotypically a lot of Asians tend to play badminton, and a lot of Asians tend to have wider feet. It'd be worthy into getting shoes that specifically for wide feet. And I think those tend to be more comfortable because I myself have wide feet. So if I can't find a shoe sometimes, then I'll have to size up, which, as John talked about, is not good because then there'll be more space between the front of the shoe and where my toes end. So I tend to look for the wide shoes myself.
Is there anything like any specification on the exterior of the shoe that you should be looking for? Is it, or does that also come down to preference as well? Just because I know, like a long time ago, they had something that was on the side of the shoes that were to stop you from rolling your ankle. If you guys remember that?
Yeah, I feel like that was a bit of a gimmick.
Was it? Okay.
I would, yeah, I've had those shoes before, and what they marketed as is that they put these pieces of plastic that sort of stick up, so that the edge of your foot will hit against it when you stop your foot sideways. But a lot of the times that's mostly just for marketing. I feel like it doesn't necessarily contribute that much. I mean, nowadays that was a bit of a phase. Nowadays, if you buy a lot of the shoes, there actually isn't that sort of claw feature anymore. So I feel like that didn't really do much.
Oh yeah, that's what it was called, like the claw thing.
Yeah, that was a Yonex thing.
So at the end of the day, it really comes down to like comfort and preference for shoes.
Yeah, I think if I were to rank them, running shoes would be at the very bottom, and then like below that would be dress shoes. I mean, that if you're wearing dress shoes to play, you might as well not wear shoes at all.
Where do you put flip flops? Is that above or below?
Yeah, yeah. I know, John. You've actually worn all these to play. I've seen you play in dress shoes and flip flops, and you still win. So what's up with that?
Don't follow the methods I do. I'm a fool when I play sometimes. But yeah, I would suggest you stick with court shoes and don't follow them.
Yeah, like John said, I think continuing on, like bottom would be running shoes. Better than running shoes would be court shoes, and then the best would be badminton shoes for badminton.
And pajamas are okay too.
I mean, that I don't know why no one wears them. They're so comfortable.
Comfort.
There's probably a reason why, I think.
So at the end of the day, I guess a lot of the stuff just comes down to like trial and error, a lot of preferences, your budget preferences included, and then comfort level as well. Pretty much like the biggest key takeaways from today. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if I were to finish with one last thing is that just enjoy playing badminton. Like, you don't need the best stuff to enjoy the sport. I mean, when I first started playing, I was wearing ping pong shoes, pajamas, and using a racket that was far too heavy for me. And I'm still playing today. I should still have that racket. It's still strung with the original strings.
Oh my goodness.
I might have the pajamas too, actually. But that's a different topic completely. But yeah, I mean, just enjoy the sport. Just go out, play, practice social distancing, of course. But go out, play, do exercise, and there's nothing else besides that.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing to people who are just starting is, first of all, congratulations for just starting, because this is a great sport, and there's so many different levels that you can get to. So I'd say just understand that it's a process, and every day you play badminton, you're going to learn something new about yourself and about how you grip your racket or how you lunge to the net. So just make sure you come with the right equipment so you can prevent injury and keep on playing the sport for the long term.
Yeah, there's no time limit. It's a hobby. It's something you won't get into because you enjoy it. It's not a job or anything. Just play for fun, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys. So, unfortunately, that is all the time we do have for today. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to appear on our podcast. And I want to thank our listeners as well for tuning in. And as always, we'll be releasing our new podcast on Friday and or Saturdays. So you can continue to catch those releases through Facebook or Instagram. Until then, that is the tea.